Welcome!
Welcome indeed.
Well, thank you for joining us again on Marty Bucko. We're in Phil's conservatory. Thanks, Phil. Thanks, Keen, for filming. And we had to come inside. It looks like it may be raining in a bit. Now, some time back, I brought this Swedish retro sports top right when I started the Marty Bucko channel, out of respect for Sweden, that by and large hadn't gone along with the tyranny. Mm-hmm. And of course for wearing stand-up in the park, although in fairness I've not really wore it much, even though the flag that Patrick and Julie bring with a smile on it and they've put in the park is yellow. Not many people have wore yellow much, have they?
Has anybody questioned you on that? Why you wearing a sweater?
No, not really. So, with that, skål! 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 Yeah, skål just being a, like our cheers, an old Norse word from the Norse language. So, to where Sweden is, you've gathered the talk is on Sweden. We're heading in the end to the cashless society with Sweden leading the way. Now, I don't take for granted that people know where Sweden is any more than where the Ukraine is. I remember when I was working in an old people's home, one of the people, the workers, when I was talking about Austria, they thought I was talking about Australia. Now, they were from overseas themselves, but they didn't know where Austria was. And remember Barack Obama, when he was giving a speech, he mentioned the Austrian language. There is no such thing as the Austrian language. It is German. So, one real, true, funny story, when I was out at my mum and dad's, the house opposite, an older gentleman called Derek lived there. And his mother, aged mother, came to live with him, and she'd have a chat with my dad on the front. She took the bins out and was on the front talking to people. Anyway, Dad says to her one day, he says, "How's Derek doing?" She says, "Oh, he's on holiday." "Oh, that's nice. Where's he gone?" She says, "He's gone to Paris." "Oh, he's gone to France." "No," she says, "he's gone to Paris." It's not that she was trying to be funny. She literally, some people don't have a good sense of geography. She didn't connect Paris with France. So, Sweden on the map then. Right, let's just think, first of all, you know where the UK is, right? You know as you look at the map and you go up to the Hebrides, the Shetland Islands, yeah? And then if you go further up on the map and you swing a little bit to the left, you've got Iceland, and you come across there, the top of the Shetland Islands, all down there, Faroe Islands. Then you come to this big chunk of land coming down, and on the left-hand side of it is Norway. And then Sweden, a big landmass. And then down below is Denmark. These are the three big Scandinavian countries. Now you can include Iceland, and you can include Finland, but mainly when people think of Scandinavia, they're thinking of them three countries. But the other two, Finland and Iceland, do have connections, big connections with them, and they're very distinctive features
probably
that unite
the smaller populations as well, probably, so they're not so well known.
That's it. Yeah. So, skål! Skål! Yes.
Yes, isn't it strange how talking of Sweden and Ukraine, isn't it strange how the colours match?
Yes, exactly the same, aren't they? Mm. Exactly the same. The same distinctive blue and yellow. So, I want to come and touch on the Vikings. This talk would not be complete without the Vikings, the Norsemen from up north. Now, the Viking Age roughly lasted from the 8th to the 11th century. Now, an Arab traveller, and this is documented in Neil Oliver's Vikings DVD TV series. Now, Neil Oliver, he's the guy with the beard,
yes,
who says a lot of good things against the narrative.
Yeah.
I've got great respect for that man.
On this
He
news show.
spoke some really good messages. Now, people may not agree with everything, you know, but the point is he really is good. But
Is that that GB News?
I think he appears on there. He's got his own thing I've subscribed to. He puts up maybe weekly a video. Anyway, he says and mentions this. An Arab traveller says, "I've never seen more perfect physical specimens, tall as date palms, blonde and ruddy. They wear a garment which covers one side of the body and leaves a hand free. Each man has an axe, a sword and a knife and keeps each by him at all times." Now, the Danish and the Norwegian Vikings mainly went to the west and to Britain in their raids. Some Swedes went there as well, but the Swedes mainly went east to the Baltic countries of Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, all around there and into Russia. And they were known, according to this Arab writer, and others have documented it, as the Russ, R-U-S-S. And I find it somewhat interesting that they ended up going to Russia, which is big in the news at the minute with this war in Ukraine, or the old Crimea.
Crimea, yeah.
Now, there's a film...
There's a Crimea.
There's a film... Now, this is just a Hollywood film from around 1958. It's interesting because they do use some literal examples of the times. They build a Viking village as it was. They did much research. They built an actual Viking boat. The costumes are authentic. The horses that were used in the Viking village are actual from those times, half the size of a normal horse, a bit like a pony. When the Viking chieftain dies, they buried him at sea. They set fire to the boat and just sent the boat out with a Viking dead chief on it and burnt and let it drift out. This is enacted in the film. And there's also something that was called the running of the oars was reenacted. Kirk Douglas, as the Viking chief who takes over from his dad, who dies in it, Ernest Borgnine, he, as the Viking boat comes back from their raids, journeys, as it approaches their actual village in the mountains, they would hold the oars out each side, and for entertainment they would run the oars, jumping from one to the other all the way round, jump back on the boat and then back round the other side. Now, Richard Fleischer, the director, says Kirk Douglas wanted to do this. He says, "I want to do this." He says, "The water's really cold, Kirk. Are you sure you want to do this?" Which he did. It was captured on film, and maybe that's the first time in 1,000 years that actual footage reenacting the running of the oars has taken place.
So he didn't use it. They didn't use a stuntman.
They did, but Kirk Douglas actually did it better than them. So that I found all that of some interest. A quote in the film jumped out at me. "Lies will not sustain a tyrant," they said at one point in the film. But here's a key point in all of this. The Vikings traded in certain places where they took the slaves, the slave markets. They had things to trade and offer, skins and various things, weapons of war, But their main wealth centred on slavery and slaves, which they took by force, raiding the coastlines and going inland. Dublin Island was founded by Norwegian Vikings in 841 AD and quickly grew into one of the largest slave markets in Europe. And on one day, there was 200 boats taking slaves to the slave markets of the world. And these were white slaves, these were Britons, these were Celts, these were Picts being sent out. These were warrior, violent people whose gods were pretty violent, that they had Odin, Thor, and such people. They were gods of war, and they had little mercy, and they didn't take captives that they didn't intend to sell. You were taken if you had some worth, if there was some value, and there were some pretty shocking things when they came inland to Britain and would massacre the monks in the monasteries and things like that. It sent shockwave and terror, much like, acts of terrorism create fear in people. They were seen as very barbarians, that you had to fear.
So were they taken back to Scandinavia or other parts of the world?
I don't know. They took them to slave markets that they knew of. There were there was like islands that were set up as almost like places you could stay, go, trade in Scandinavia, bring your slaves, and then on to wherever they sold them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm just going to refill.
Yeah.
Skål! Skål! This is a traditional Viking beer glass, as it were, or made out of actual horn of some sort of cattle,
Stag,
beef,
probably cattle. Yeah.
Okay, so we move on and we come to the Swedish film director Ingmar Bergman's classic, The Seventh Seal. Now this is about a disillusioned knight from medieval times of the 14th century who is called Antonius Block, and he returns with his cynical squire Jons, played by Gunnar Bjornstrand, and they return to Sweden, and it is under the grip of the Black Death, which stalked Europe. And it's said that up to 30 to 60% of the European population perished in this actual plague. Now that's just what the history says. Whether that's totally correct or not, I don't know. But the thing is, that's what it says. They're resting on the beach with the seaside, and death appears to him as a person and challenges him to a game of chess. The knight knows that at some point he's going to be claimed, his life is going to be claimed, and he wants to get out of this. So this chess match is throughout the duration of the film, and comes back to it at the end. Now, I found it particularly of interest. There's quite a frightening thing where you have the people beating themselves with pennants, crosses, and marching along with incense, and worked up into a frenzy because they want to somehow, they're trying to figure out, why have these things happened to us? Why are we being punished? Why is this happening? And of course, you have the usual, suspects, scapegoats, are brought out. You know, you've got the Jews, you've got friars, you've got foreigners, travelling people, lepers, Romany gypsies, and witches are all under suspicion, and some are harshly treated, if not burnt at the stake.
So, in all, they're playing a game as well. A game of chess.
And here is another thing. Yes, yeah.
They're just playing a game.
Here's another thing. According to the sources, this Black Death began, guess where?
No. Really?
Ukraine, Crimea. That's the documented where it began and spread out.
Rats.
And fleas.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I find it just, that is interesting in and of itself.
Oh, wow.
Skål.
Skål.
Skål. Okay, so during the 17th century, Sweden emerged as a big power. They took land from Russia, Poland, Lithuania in multiple conflicts, one including the 30 Years' War. Can you imagine the war lasting 30 years? Now, you know what I'm like for films and such things. I want to touch on one of my favourite old Hollywood film actresses, Swedish, called Greta Garbo. That's one of her films, screwball comedy film. Very, very good. Directed by the great Ernst Lubitsch. He used to portray amazing European sophistication with great humour. He was known for what was termed the Lubitsch touch. Brilliant. His films I really like, and Garbo was really good in that one. She came over as she was a model in Sweden. She was brought over by film director Moritz Stiller, who brought her to attention and did a number of silent films were made with her in it, and they became very popular. This came to the attention of Louis B. Mayer from Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, and when he viewed with his daughter this Stiller film with Garbo in it, his daughter says, "What did you think to the film?" He says, "The film's good, the director's good, but the girl," he says, "look at the girl." He says, "The eyes." He says, I can make a star out of her. He says, with the director or without the director, but we must have the girl. And she came to America. And remember, it was that time the silents were going into talkies, early talkies. And so for some, her boyfriend at the time, John Gilbert, I think his name was, John Gilbert, he was a big silent star, but when the talkies came in, his voice was very high pitched, and people actually laughed. Yeah, and it ruined him. He tried to get over it and adjust his voice and everything, but he never really recovered. With Garbo, they put her in a film called Anna Christie, and her first talking line was, she walks into the bar with this big hat on and a suitcase, sits down, and the waiter comes up. And this is the line. She says, "Give me a whiskey with a ginger ale on the side. And don't be stingy, baby." It was a big hit, and she became a big star right through the 30s into the mid-40s. And Groucho Marx said, from the Marx Brothers, he said, because he was in this lift with her one time, fiddling with her hat behind her, and she told him off. He says, "Greta Garbo," he says, "she's a very pretty lady," he says, "with big feet." Oh dear. And Skål again. Skål. Have you seen any Swedish films?
No.
No?
Never. Nope. I've looked at Swedish cars and that's about it.
Yeah.
Could I have a top-up Viking bar?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So, let's have a think. We move into more modern times, and everyone's familiar. Let's be honest, everyone's familiar with these. We've all heard, and they're tuneful. Now remember, they won the European Song Contest in 1974.
Yeah.
Yeah, with Waterloo.
Yeah.
Can't remember the words.
Waterloo, how did you feel you won the war?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any significance. Maybe we need to check out more deeper into the words of that song. And they came the first time Sweden had won the Eurovision Song Contest.
Yeah.
And of course, the name is an Aramaic name
For father.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. And it is actually listed 3 times in the Bible. ABBA is an Aramaic word to address God in a relationship of personal intimacy. 3 times it's used in the Bible. Now, in Mark's Gospel 14:36, Jesus says, before the temptation and going to the cross, Abba, Father, he uses that term. Abba, Father, all things are possible to thee. Take away this cup from me, but nevertheless, not what I will, but what thou wilt. The Apostle Paul in Romans 8:15 picks up the theme. He says, you've not received the spirit of bondage again to fear, but have received the spirit of adoption whereby we cry, Abba, Father. And in Galatians 4:6, he repeats the same thing, because you're sons of God. God's not sent his God has sent forth the Spirit of his Son into your hearts, crying, Abba, Father. That's because it reads back to front.
Yeah, that's right. I
People,
the name for that now.
Yeah, are not quite sure what the
terminology is for.
They think of that.
Now, you bringing up the Eurovision Song Contest and ABBA winning it, so that the first Swedish group to win it. So young Keen tells me last night, it was the Eurovision Song Contest last night.
Yes, it was.
I'll give you 3 guesses who won.
It wasn't Sweden, surely. Or Ukraine.
Yeah.
Ukraine won it.
Yeah.
And in the FA Cup final, which I did happen to watch, Liverpool against
Chelsea.
That's the one.
Yeah.
There was a sign going round, and I missed the name of the beer, but it said as it were going round, best Ukrainian beer.
Right.
Which you never would have under
in an
normal.
English.
No. Well, Ukraine. No, I'm not having it. But you see how they're promoting it.
Yeah.
So Ukraine won it.
That's what they're selling in the supermarkets at the minute.
Wow.
And they're giving the money towards the Ukraine relief.
Okay.
Yeah, they're selling them like £1 a can.
Well, I'm not surprised. I don't think.
I'm not surprised.
No.
Yeah.
By that.
Amazing.
So we come to the hat.
Yeah.
We come to the title of this video, where Swedes lead, turnips follow. Now, let's have a taste of this.
Yes.
Oh, and by the way, I put Phil and Gaz onto this, isn't it? In the
Yes. Eating it raw.
Swedes eating raw, you can't do it really. Parsnips, you can't. It's too hard. It's not. But this, actually, when you cut it up, the turnip is quite sweet. It's easy to eat.
Yeah.
You can have it in a salad. Very pleasant.
And it stores.
And it stores.
Yeah.
So the Swede is leading the way. Turnips will follow on. Now, in the early 1990s, the England football manager was Graham Taylor. And in the Euros, England were knocked out early in the group stage by Sweden. And the Sun headline was Swedes 2, Turnips. That's it. Turnips 1. Taylor's men get a Viking good idea. Well, yeah, we got knocked out. Now, in fairness to Graham Taylor, he was a pretty decent manager, but not as the England manager. Yeah? And the Sun vilified him, yeah, as turnip tailor, and when they didn't qualify for the World Cup in the United States in 1994, he resigned, and that was the Sun heading.
Yes.
That's your allotment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can see the funny side to it, but they really did give him a pasting, didn't they?
I've got one memory of that, and that is that you really annoyed me that he never brought Nigel Clough off the bench when we needed a goal. And there was the man sitting on the bench to do it, to create the play. And he never brought him on.
That's your allotment. So, Skull. Okay, so like England that has kept their currency, even though we were part of the EU, we've apparently left. Sweden doesn't use the euro. They had a referendum back in 2003, and at that time the Swedes decided not to adopt the single currency. And at present, cash is used, but there's not a lot of it. Now,
you didn't know this, did you? The name?
No.
It was in the supermarket.
This is Garbo again. Yeah. This note is just a photocopy of the 100 krona.
You didn't know that they'd gone cashless, really, did you, at first? Until I mentioned it.
It's still bits of there.
Bits.
But it's going.
It's when we sing this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But it's going. The date has been fixed, and this is the date they will remove cash. Okay, now that's a very serious thing indeed.
Yes.
Isn't it? That date. And Garbo's on the 100 krona note. And here's another one called
Krona.
Krona. And as you know, very similar to
the
what
Rona.
we've had with the Rona.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Now,
so as regards going cashless, digital society, if anybody wants to look at it, if they want to pause the video and go to that URL in their browser, that actually shows Zelensky giving a talk. I think it was in 2019. So he'd only been in office, not long.
Yeah.
Before that, he was an actor. Well, he's still an actor now, isn't he? Yeah. But he was an actor, and he even acted the part of the Prime Minister, and there he is. So yeah, if you want to go to that, that's a good talk of him addressing a forum on digitalising Ukraine.
Thanks, Phil. And as you know, people are inserting in Sweden microchips under the skin. It's supposed to make life convenient.
Yeah.
Opening doors, cards, ID.
It's for your
train
inconvenience.
tickets, different things. All these things. They're leading the way in all this area.
Yeah.
Now,
It's not for your convenience.
you see, at first I thought Sweden, out of respect, thinking, yes, good, they're not going along. But I've come to the conclusion, Phil, it's not through their own looking at the evidence. They have been placed there for people to look at why the Rona didn't go there and why it didn't infect the Vikings and the Scandinavians. Why did they stand apart? They've been put there for people to look at, to reflect upon, to ponder.
It's a good idea.
To look. And then when it dies down a bit, you got this coming along.
Yeah.
Same as that. And the plague began in Ukraine, the bubonic. And it's all sort of linked in, and lo and behold, people of the Vikings yet again are leading the way of people into slavery. They're leading the way again.
Yeah. In a non-violent way.
How incredible that these warrior type beings have become this sort of liberal, anything goes, liberal in the worst sense, of leading into all of this. And as I said, they were known as the Rus, and they went into Russia. The colours are the same. They're going to be the first cashless society, right? And what we're saying by this is the Swedes are leading the way.
Yeah.
And all the turnips, and we're not trying to be disrespectful to anyone. We're not calling people like ourselves mourn and are sad and are grieved. And when the event comes that our cash is taken away, we will be troubled and saddened and grieved. But for these people that say, well, I never use cash. Well, I can't think of the last time I've used cash.
Get that all the time.
Yeah. Oh, no, I don't. It's dirty. Oh, wash your hands. What's wrong with it? It's when it's gone, our freedom's gone.
Yeah. Digital enslavement.
Digital enslavement. The Vikings are leading the way. And the turnips are these people that couldn't care less. If it happens, it happens. Oh, I don't use cash. I can't remember when I've used cash. Yeah.
But I think this is a good point that you mentioned the other day. It's now this and this is getting everybody to sympathise with Ukraine.
Yeah.
And they'll then bring in a cashless society
Yes.
to Ukraine, definitely.
Because say Ukraine are one of the next ones after Sweden.
Yeah.
They've both gone that way. All the world leaders go like that. Look, oh, and everyone's like this.
Yeah.
And they're all sympathetic. Will they not follow on like the turnips?
Yeah.
Of course they will.
Of course they will, yeah. That is what the
It's concerning. It is very, very concerning.
chips and apps are all about anyway, aren't they? That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
In fact, it's definitely for your inconvenience if you use public transport or you're shopping and you're in a queue. People now paying with their damn phones. Drives me sad.
Yeah.
And they can't get it right, and it's not convenient.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we've more or less touched on a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Swedish word for goodbye. Adieu.
Adieu.
Adieu. Adieu. Farewell is farvel. Farvel?
Oh, farvel.
Farvel.
Oh, farvel.
Now, Greta Garbo I think it was in the film Grand Hotel. Her catchphrase in that sense was, I want to be alone. I want to be left alone. Yeah? So, is it not similar with us? We just want to be left alone, but they keep poking us. They keep on oppressing us. They keep on doing these things to us. Yeah. So, we just wish the cabal would leave us alone.
Yeah.
So, we may as well go out on money, innit? Sing.
Yes.
So, money, 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 lots of money in a rich man's world. Money, money, money.
And remember, we've gone from this tyrant, and we also have a Swedish tyrant. How dare you!
I am well done. That's it. So, we've said everything. So in Swedish, vi synger is vi ses.